Hello, YouTube. Nice to see I finally put that spoiler thing up. I probably should have done that a while ago, but I just found saying spoilers all the time really fun, I guess. Today, we'll be looking at the 6th episode of Night Visions, and so let's start off by talking about something that I said that I wouldn't be talking about anymore, the host. Yeah, don't worry, I have a reason. So for this one, he actually opens it up pretty well. Yeah, it's actually a good introduction. It lasts a little bit longer than some of the others, and it tells us who the main characters are, and a general sort of theme of the story. It's actually just a pretty good intro. I'm impressed. I mean, it's still not that long, and after this, the host just goes back to doing what he does every episode, which is just short little sum-ups. But yeah, at the very least, he did have a good introduction for this one, so I'm impressed. And yeah, that happens again, I'll just not mention it, I guess. So, yeah, I really gotta just stop talking about the host. It's just wasting time here. This story is If a Tree Falls. And no, it's not about trees falling at all, or anything in relation to that, or even about the woods. No, it's about blind faith. Why didn't they just call it Blind Faith? I don't get that. But yeah, anyway, this story starts off ever so subtly with Devin and Seth arguing in a car about whether or not God is real. Truly a very interesting conversation topic that has not been done to death at all. And we find out that they've apparently had this conversation many times. Guys, either come to a consensus at this point, or just stop pressing the issue. You're being a dead horse at this point. Though apparently both of them find the topic as equally engaging as the other, so I don't know. Feel bad for Bethany, though. She apparently has to listen to this all the time. You'd think that after a while she would just, like, turn up music or something in the car, but no, apparently she's still interested. So yeah, they keep on arguing about that until their car goes off the cliff. Why? Because, well, Devin ran over a rock. Yeah. That causes all car crashes. I mean, yeah, okay, I do understand that, yes, running over something can cause a car crash, but it's a very small rock. That should have just caused a bump, not, oh my god, I gotta steer off to the road! Like, why? Bit of an overreaction to that, but yeah, anyway. So yeah, they crash into the water, but then they come up and they seem okay. But yeah, they've just had a near-death experience, so how are they going to react to this? They splash each other with water. We all have our ways of dealing with it. I mean, like, when I had a car crash happen right in front of me, and it could have actually been me and my cousin in that scenario if he didn't if he didn't get out of this guy's way, and yeah, I was actually put into a very odd state after that, and I kept on thinking about, like, what could have happened there if he didn't decide to move, but no, clearly the best way to deal with this is splashing each other with water. Yep. I mean, I guess you gotta enjoy the little things after it, I don't know. So, yeah, then they look over, and then they see themselves in the car, and it's falling into the water. I would have thought that would have already been in the water, but yeah, it's still falling somehow. So that kind of freaks them out a little bit, and they decide to talk about, well, what's really going on? Are they ghosts, or what? But then some guy sees them, so that kind of rules out ghosts. Unless they're just, visible ghosts. But yeah, they do touch stuff, so no, they're not ghosts. But, then Bethany comes up with a brilliant idea as to what's happening. Since no one saw them die and knows about the car crash, they're fine. Because that is how that just makes so much sense. Don't even know why I would ever question that. Yeah, that's just a weird idea. Like, she just comes up with this idea out of nowhere, too. She's just like, well, no one saw this if a tree falls. And then she's just like, well, that's clearly what's happening here. We should never tell anyone about this, and we'll take it to our graves. So, yeah. I mean, she's right, of course, but still, this is a very random thing to just be like, oh, yeah, this is probably what's going on, I think. I don't know why, but yeah, I think I think this is it. So, yeah, they just go back to college, acting like nothing's wrong, and Devin's still a bit freaked out, thinking that he should have died as an act of God, because he's the overly religious one. So he goes to see a priest and confess about it. And when he does that, though, the priest believes him for a little bit, and both Seth and Bethany are transported back into the car, where they start drowning a little. So, yeah, turns out they actually do. So, yeah, turns out that Bethany is actually right somehow. Still, I find it really weird that she just came up with this idea out of nowhere, and it just so happened to be correct. But the priest doesn't believe Devin for long, because Devin says that he was also in the crash, even though he's still talking to him. I don't know why he would tell him that part, but yeah. So, yeah, everyone comes back and it's all fine again, but they realize that the car didn't exactly go as deep as they thought it would, so now they gotta push the car down even further so no one ever finds it. However, Devin's still in a very odd state, because I guess he's the only one who actually feels that strange about this scenario, although Bethany does start believing in God after this, so that's something. At least she had a reaction to this. Seth just sort of seems to be like, it happens. So yeah, Seth's my favorite character in this. Seriously, I just love his reaction. He's just like, it's okay. We gotta worry about the cover-up, but still, it's fine that we're, like, dead and not dead at the same time. It's normal. So they make a plan that tomorrow they're just gonna push the car into the water. However, Devin does not think that's a good idea and thinks that they should just all already be dead. So he decides that he's gonna go down there and get his body out so someone will see it. Yeah, you could just, like, have one of them tell someone for you, or just have some random people you could just give a guy, like, $20 and just say, hey, tell that friend that was in this car ride with me about what happened. Just saying, like, that there are other ways around this that don't require potentially having your friends' bodies go up too, but yeah, sure, okay. And yeah, that's exactly what happens. His friends' bodies rise to the surface, Rise Up Fisherman sees it, and then, amazingly, seeing the dead bodies makes him believe what's happening, and both Seth and Bethany die. However, Devin is not as lucky, because the car fell off immediately after that, and it's too far for him to go and get. So, yeah. Blind faith really worked out for him there. Like I said, this story should have been called Blind Faith. Seriously, why is it called If a Tree Falls? That's one line that leads into some really weird conclusion that I don't really get how Bethany came to, but, oh no, the theme of it is mostly about the dangers of blind faith, how taking it too far can be a bad thing, but yeah, no, clearly, just call it If a Tree Falls, because yeah, one line about that versus the theme of the story. I understand your logic here, show. So yeah, Devin is left all alone, and Bethany cries blood. I don't get that. But yeah, anyway, so then he throws a rose into the water because it ties into some story that Bethany told. And I assume that he committed suicide shortly after or something. Though then again, he is really religious, so I don't know. Maybe he got someone to do it for him. I don't know. Still though, either that or he just got a lot of therapy. Could be either. Pretty sure the therapy one would be the best scenario in that, so yeah. So yeah, for this story, it's okay. The basis for the story is fairly interesting, and I will say that it was handled a bit better than something like Afterlife. However, the problem with it is that it's very heavy-handed about the theme of religion here, and yeah, as an agnostic, I just sort of found it a bit annoying at times with how far it goes with that. It's sort of the same reason why I don't like the movie The Seventh Son. To me, it sort of hits you in the head with it far too many times, and yeah, that can be a bit distracting. Here, though, at the very least, the main character did start off as Christian and just goes further into that, unlike in The Seventh Son, where, oh, she's just an atheist, but then, like, in 1 second, she's just like, oh, yeah, I totally believe everything that you're saying, and that movie is stupid! I really don't like that movie. If you disagree, that's fine. I would be willing to have a good argument about that because I really don't like that movie. I really, really don't. It just so happened to come with a really good DVD set. So, yeah, if that weren't the case, I probably would have never watched it. But, yeah, to me, this story can be a bit heavy-handed with that idea sometimes, and yeah, it can be a tad annoying when that's just sort of most of the conversation. That said, though, I do still think that I can make up for that. Like I said, the premise is pretty interesting, and it does delve into this in a decent way. The characters are also fairly likable. I didn't even find myself hating Devin all that much, although I feel like I really should have. He's still a fairly nice person, and you can understand where he's coming from, and yeah, you can definitely understand why he feels the way that he is. Bethany is played by an actress from Orange is the New Black in Portlandia. So yeah, this might not have been the highlight of her career, but still though, her character is fine. I found her likable enough, although she isn't that interesting to me. There is a backstory with her and her broken leg and Devin consoling her during that time, but yeah, that just sort of felt like it added a little bit more character to Devin than it did to Bethany. I mean, it does still show that, she does persevere and stuff, so that's a decent character trait to her, and it is still seen throughout this story, so that's nice, and it's not just sort of a throwaway thing. But still, though, she wasn't overly interesting to me. That said, though, I didn't want to see her die or anything, and she is a pretty likable character as is. Except for that weird theory that she just comes up with out of nowhere. Seriously, where did this come from? I really do want to know where the if the tree falls thing came from. She's just like all of a sudden, oh, well, no one saw this. So yeah, clearly that's how we survive. I really don't get that. I really want answers on this. So, but yeah, I'm probably never going to get any. So then there's Seth. Like I said, I really enjoy Seth's character on this, mostly due to his nonchalant reaction over dying. Seriously, he's just like, okay, well, we died, so, yeah, we should probably, go over back to that lake tomorrow and just, like, push the car into the ocean, get rid of it forever. Yeah, well, let's just do that, yeah. Although I don't get why although his solution was, let's take the bodies out and bury them somewhere. You do know that people do find buried bodies, right? Like that, it's not an odd occurrence. I'm just saying, like, just push the car into the water more. That it works out. It's a good solution. Why don't you just do that? I don't get that, but yeah. Anyway, though, Seth is still a pretty likable character to me, and was probably my favorite of this story. So yeah, for the story overall, it's decent. It's not particularly scary, but it's more supposed to be interesting, and I do think that accomplishes that to a certain extent. It is a tad heavy-handed with the religion stuff, but I do think that can be ignored a bit better than other things. I don't like that. But yeah, it still is a pretty good story with some likable characters that I didn't want to see anything happen to. So, and that's actually a pretty good thing to me because these characters did sort of feel like they were going to end up being the cliche ones from that story Rest Stop that I wouldn't care about if they died at all. But these ones were actually fairly decent, and I will say they had some character to them. I mean, they weren't overly interesting, but I think they were still likable enough. So the second story is The Occupant, which is directed by Joe Dante. So if you're a bit of a horror and sci-fi fan, that name might be a bit familiar to you. Well, there's a reason for that. He's the director of the Gremlins 1 and 2 and The Howling, as well as various other things like The Explorers. So, yeah, he's got quite a bit behind his name. So, yeah, it was really cool seeing him direct this story, and it definitely does show in the style of direction here. And there are definitely some really good shots in this, and I'm glad to see that. Because for the last one, yeah, well, I did like that story more. The editing was pretty bad on most of the shots, so you don't really get to enjoy a lot of them. This one, though, does take its time and lets you actually see things, and it has a bit subtler build-up, which I think is pretty nice, as this one's more goal is in order to scare you instead of just trying to be more interesting. So, for this one, it's about Mary, who's recently going through a divorce and and hasn't been feeling like she's alone in her house lately. People are eating her food, messing up her makeup, and taking her dress out of the closet. Bastards. How dare. So, yeah, Mary calls the police about this, but when she does, she asks, can you smell if anyone's in here? So they think that she's a bit nuts, so they just leave her alone. Why does she ask if they can smell them? It was so stupid. Seriously, it's hilarious, but it's so dumb. What a weird question to ask. Like, I just don't get it. But yeah, anyway, so she decides that she just needs a little bit of time out of the house. So she goes to a restaurant where some guy named Eugene, who, by the way, was played by a guy who had some role to play in a Mork and Mindy documentary. Finding all the stars in this story. So yeah, I actually don't really remember what he did for that Mork and Mindy documentary. I think that he was an interviewer or something. I don't know. But yeah, he was in it. So yeah, she meets this guy named Eugene who's kind of creepishly staring at her, pays for a drink, and follows her home. But no, he's not actually. But no, he doesn't actually do anything to her, really. He's just a red herring for no real reason. Seriously, his character is pointless in this, and he just acts really weird. Even at the end of this, when everything's supposed to make sense, yeah, he still just sort of acts really weird, making me think that, I don't know, there's just some story with him that we're just not seeing. I would honestly kind of love it if in, like, the next episode we just see him return and we get his side of a story. I would just love that, but yeah, we're probably not going to get that. So, yeah, he's fine. He's just sort of an annoying red herring that's just sort of there for no reason. But yeah, he moved next door to Mary, and she doesn't care about that. So she goes home. Truly, Eugene was very important in that scene. So yeah, she goes home, and she just sort of sees some of her stuff is taken out again, but decides to just take a nap. However, she's woken up when A House on Haunted Hill starts playing on TV. And yeah, I can see why that would wake you up. That movie is awesome. Vincent Price for life. Seriously, I love that movie. I love Vincent Price movies. I loved hearing that. They don't actually show it, which is kind of nice to me because normally they just sort of try and show the clips of it, or like she'll actually walk downstairs and see what's going on. I like how she was just like, yeah, no, I saw the person down there. I'm not going to mess with it. And then the next day, she decides that she's running out of money, so she gets a watch and tries to sell it, but then she decides not to because it has sentimental value, which is something that the jeweler points out. And so yeah, the jeweler's obviously the most likable character in this. Yeah, he actually kind of is. He's just a nice guy. So yeah. So then Mary goes back home, but when she goes into her room, she hears that person walking up the stairs and into her room, so she decides to hide in the closet with the phone. Which she does, and she calls the police immediately, and they tell her to just hide in the closet when she eventually gets there. However, we find out that this is not actually her house, and it turns out that she's just been squatting in someone's place because it was her old place, and it's just how she's dealing with the divorce. So, yeah, she's been crazy this whole story, and if that wasn't obvious to you, I don't know. I'm sorry. I honestly thought that she was going to be a ghost, though, or something. I really did think that was going to be the twist, but then I was like, well, she's interacting with people, so she's probably just the nut job squatting in this guy's house, and yeah, that was the case. And then Eugene hits on the person whose house that she was living in, and yeah, I don't really know why he would do that immediately after someone was just carried out by the police from her place. Just saying, Eugene, there's a time and a place, and this is not it. So yeah, Eugene's an idiot, and that's the end of the story. So yeah, the story's okay. Like I said, the directing in it is pretty good, and the acting is actually pretty decent in it, except for Eugene's actor, who just comes off just as weird as the character's supposed to be, so I guess he fits that mold, so I guess that he fits it well, but still, his character feels pretty out of place in this story, and very useless, which he is. Seriously, he's just there for a red herring. Why does he need to be in this? I mean, he's just useless and annoying. I really don't get the point of him, but yeah, anyway, so Mary's character isn't overly interesting, which, yeah, is a bit of a problem. Well, that she's going through a divorce and that she's an introvert and stuff, and she doesn't really know how to live on her own after so long, but still, she's just not really an interesting person, and it's kind of boring, really. As is this story, which it takes a while for anything to really happen, and while it's trying to build suspense, and I get that, most of the time it's just, oh my god, someone knocked over makeup! I should call the police about this! Also, I would like to know why the woman in this house keeps on knocking over makeup. Like, why? Or why she's eating off of a dish and not washing it. What is wrong with you? Do you want ants in your house, you idiot? I mean, I guess you're okay with this other person making food for you, so I don't know, maybe you are just cool with that, I don't know. So yeah, the main character in the story isn't overly interesting, but is the story executed well? Not really. Yeah, the story is alright, but like the main character, it's pretty boring, and I wasn't really all that interested in what was going on. Like I said, it's mostly trying to build suspense, but it's not doing that great of a job with it, and it just sort of comes off as pretty forgettable, and just not really that interesting. So yeah, this story, it's okay. I think that's cool that they got Joe Dante to direct an episode, but still, the overall execution of it just isn't overly interesting. It's fine, but I would still prefer watching the first story over it, even if it is kind of heavy-handed sometimes. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode. Bye.